Mainland FM 98.3.
Good morning, and happy new month. It's the first day in the month of December 2022. So November has finally packed its bags and it's all gone, and now we're officially in the month of November, the 12th month in the year, and right now that's about 85 days to the general elections in 2023. There's a whole lot to look forward to in 2023, but I know we're all excited about it. But don't let the month pass you by. Don't let 2022 just pass you by, okay? It's not yet time for you to just give up on the year. There's still a whole lot that you can achieve within 31 days, okay? Including today, yes. The entire month of December is at your disposal. So, good morning, welcome. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, and right now it's time for Trends in the Papers. Okay, this is the part where we talk about trending stories from the front pages of our dailies. And this morning, we're going to be looking through Nigerian Tribune, Vanguard, The Guardian, and The Punch newspaper, looking through the papers and seeing what exactly are the stories trending. But before then, there have been some stories that trended overnight that actually has, brought some sort of intrigues and exciting conversations in the course of the night, arrests here and there. And there's something I would like to ask for, but before I do, there's been, some sort of excitement coming from the judiciary, from Abdulrasheed Bawa to the IGP, and the story now is of the chief of Army staff. Yes. That's interesting. All right, but interesting times ahead. We still have the campaign season, ongoing at the moment, and there's still so many other things to look forward to. Okay, but let's look at what exactly we have here today. Being Thursday, of course, you know that on Mainland Focus it's going to be open mic. So let's all sit together, pay attention to the trending stories, so that by the time we move to Mainland Focus, then you can appropriately select which one has piqued your interest, and then we can flesh the conversation out. My name still remains Omobola Sandra, and I have Fuhad Sahid joining me via the phone line. Good morning, Fuhad.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. How are you?
Fine, thank you very much. Happy New Month.
Yeah, same to you.
What's happening, Fuhad?
Happy New Month to you too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's December, but I don't know, the Happy New Month thing. People have built the culture of Happy New Weeks, Happy New Month.
I don't know about Happy New Year. I don't know about Happy Thursday.
Happy New Second.
No, but this is really significant. I mean, it's the last month in the year, so a lot of people are doing some last minute vision appraisal and whatnot, of some projects that you are hoping that you would have completed before the end of the year. A lot of people are trying to put things together so that they can start afresh again in 2023. So it's a very significant month, and I think it's something that
a lot of people,
yes, everyone actually, it should be for everyone. I don't know why you are trying to remove yourself. What exactly do you have against December, Fuad?
Let me use the opportunity to wish my wife a happy birthday in advance. This is her month, so.
What day is that?
You want me to tell you the actual day?
Do you remember?
Don't worry.
I don't know the day. You can't remember. You have said it on national radio, so I'll hold you to it. Okay, so let's see what trending stories we have from the papers. I'll start with Nigerian Tribune. And the major headline from there is federal government blames state governments for rising poverty. And there's a writer to that accuses them of preferring to build flyovers, airports to combating hunger. What do you think of that before we go deep into the stories? The fact that some state governments are paying attention more to projects that or capital projects or huge projects rather than attending to humanitarian affairs. What do you think?
Well, I understand where the federal government is coming from. some of the projects that you have some of these state governors embark on are what you can simply term as white elephant projects. It's not wrong to work on infrastructure, but some of the projects, again, you look at them and you really wonder where all of the thinking is coming from. I think it was 2 or 3 days ago that we're talking about the fact that you have some state governors decide to build airports in states that have no roads. For example, they have no roads to the interior parts that are supposed to open up the state for investment and all of those kind of things. You have them build stadiums, you have them build flyovers, you have them build
gates.
I don't know, the gate, okay, yes, build what they call a city gate to a state that has no road. So some of the projects I agree are white elephant projects, and for people who understand, they will tell you that it's probably the easiest way for some of these governors to also steal money. Infrastructure is probably the easiest. You can always inflate project contracts. Like they always say, the Ministry of Works is always one of those pipes, where you can always continue to siphon money, just continue to embark on projects here and there. And the reality is that beyond projects, you have to look at the significance of governance. What exactly is governance supposed to be about? It's about lifting the people, ensuring that the living standard is up there, above poverty level. So, I understand the talk that some of the governors have not, live above board when it comes to the real issues of governance. But the FGs too cannot exonerate itself. They also have their own fair share of the blame. There are things that are in the exclusive list of the federal government that they've not done properly too. And there's a way to tail into governance at the state level too. One of them, for example, is the way the federal government is handling the issue of crude oil theft, the issue of subsidy, the issue of our refineries and all of that. So it's all intertwined. As much as one wants to accept that, yes, some of the state governors and some of the projects they were embarked on are white elephant projects, they have no real significance on the living standards of the people. The federal government will also have blamed in how they've been able to manage the economy and a whole lot of other things. So it's complete failure at all levels, really.
All right. Well, as it is now, there have been statements, that have been made because at the recent FEC, that's Federal Executive Council meeting, that was held yesterday, there were a lot of statements, and given the outcome of that, that's where we're getting this. So the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, that's Clement Agba, is the one who's coming forward to say that, while states are in charge of land for agriculture, they need to invest in them for the desired effect on their rural citizens. And also the fact that, most governors are paying attention to getting loans to build skyscrapers and airports and all of that, rather than investing in areas.
For example, Sandra, sorry to cut in, Sandra, I would rather, as a governor in Ekiti State, focus on mechanized farming for the people. See how to boost agriculture, look at all of those kind of things, look at rural roads, to help farmers be able to move their goods in and out, probably create agri schemes, loans, soft loans, and SMEs for people. So rather than build airports.
Yeah. So
recently, an airport was commissioned in Ekiti, and I'm asking myself, how many people fly into Ekiti for them to spend that kind of money to build airports in Ekiti State, for example?
So basically,
why would it be the politicians and their cronies who use the airport?
So basically, they're saying that the state governments should, look away from the state capital and move into the rural areas and see what is happening there and see what they can do. Because actually, if you look at it, most state governors pay a lot of attention on the capitals, the state capital.
That's where they are now.
Because that's where they are. So that's what they're saying. The federal government saying, look deep into the rural areas and see what you can do to combat poverty and hunger in the land. That's on page 8 of the Nigerian Tribune, and that's the major headline there. Moving further, we also have NANS declares protest over unofficial increase of PMS pump price, and that is on page 12 of Nigerian Tribune. So NANS, I don't know, like they said, something is unofficial. So I'm sure we're going to get to a particular part of one of the papers where, the federal government had said something that there's no increase in pump price anywhere and whatnot. But from this particular report now, we have that NANS has declared a total lockdown of government activities in protest against an official increase of the pump price of PMS from 180 to 450. That's the first time I'm hearing that figure. 450 naira per 450 naira per. Exactly. So what they're saying now is that I'm more concerned exactly with where they got that particular figure from, but they just, I'm sure they're just working with what is going around, or the rumors going around, or the stories going around, probably. Well, because they said that the country's economy has gotten to a peak, whereby we resort to the last days of, Aluta, which is confrontation. But the leadership of NANS hereby declares that Southwest Zone D hereby declares massive protest on Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPCL, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, and IPMAN, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association. All right, and saying that something should be done, or they should look at other means or other ways rather than this. But I think I'm asking now, don't you think that NAN should maybe wait for an official statement? Or because like you mentioned yesterday, you said, Fuad, hold on, you said that there are some filling stations that are still selling at the regulated pump, exactly at the pump. So whoever is selling at that amount, or that's a little bit questionable. So don't you think NAN should just take some chill pills, or do you think they should quickly nip it at the bud?
In recent time, NANS seems to have gotten themselves involved with almost every national issue. Right? They're really out there trying to make statements and trying to also, be part of every national discourse or issue that comes up at this time. But I want to appeal to them as a former union leader too, that they have to be more strategic about the positions they take on national issues. So it's not just, an issue comes and they just want to jump at it and then don't really understand what the issues are. Like you just said, the last time I bought fuel, although it has to take a long queue and all of that, I still bought at the official price. So there are filling stations, especially the major marketers, who are still selling at the regulated price. It's more of the independent marketers that are struggling really to have access to it, which means that they have to pay extra. Some of them are even saying that now they have to rely on the major marketers to get their own supply, and then it means that they can't sell at the regulated price because they are buying higher. So it means that there's a disruption in like I said, in importation, in storage, and then supply. So we can't say that there's an official increase yet. The question we can ask ourselves is that in all of this disruption, where is disruption coming from? Is it from NNPC? Is it from the storage tanks? Is it from the private depot operators? Because I think, was it Damila that was saying yesterday that even the NNPC doesn't seem to have the depot working, their own depot working, so they rely on private depot owners. So the NNPC in itself is where we should, put our spotlight to really ask them critical questions, and then they complain to tell Nigerians what exactly the problem is. The idea of protesting and all of that, well, it's good to protest, but I would advise the leadership of NANS to be a bit more cautious, be more strategic, so that they don't just go at it and then they discover that really it's beyond what they think. So we agree that the NNPC is not really telling Nigerians the home truth, the real truth about the situation of things, which is quite unfortunate. But I would advise now that it's not every issue that you jump at. They are a student body. I think they should fight more. I think they should even concentrate more on the HDR than every other national issue.
All right, that's on page 12 of Nigerian Tribune. We also have here, Nigeria has highest malaria prevalence in children, says a report, and that's also on page 12. Moving on, we also have court remands medical doctor in prison over alleged sexual assault, and that is on page 28 of Nigerian Tribune. Just a quick one just a quick background. So that's as regards Dr. Femi Olaleye. I don't know if you remember the man who was accused of defiling his wife's niece.
Is he the one that Kate Henshaw also made a video about the
yes.
Yes. That's defiling a minor or something. Yeah.
His wife's niece. So, based on this, the Lagos State Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Court has ordered the remand of Femi Olaleye at the Ikoyi Correctional Center pending the fulfillment of his bail conditions. Okay, and he has, however, pleaded not guilty, but that's still in court. More details. Subsequently, the matter has been adjourned till December 19 for commencement of trial. That's the update on that one. More details on page 28 of Nigerian Tribune. We also have here, lecturers get full salary for November as federal government withholds 8 months arrears. That's on page 20. I don't know why we're having the comments. Didn't they work? Are they not supposed to get paid?
That month was after that.
Yes, that's because they said they resumed on the 14th of October. But they worked the entire November. So were we expecting anything different? Were we expecting that they would not be paid for November?
They've been paid fully since they worked the whole of November.
Exactly. But, but is the 8 months that is still the 8 months?
But the conversation will continue to go on. Like I said, I'm hoping that ASU would devise a better strategy to deal with this particular issue. And of course, the federal government also would have to know that you can't have lecturers being so disgruntled, being so unhappy with the system, and expect that they would deliver quality, quality service, especially when it comes to impacting, our students and giving them that knowledge that we desire. But it just shows the priority that we place on education, especially tertiary education in this part of the world. And as it is, it's for us to continue to fight their battle. That's the reason why I feel that us NANS as a student body should also look at getting involved with that issue. Just yesterday we talked about the university, I think in Gombe State, the ASU chapter saying they're going to withhold the results of students. I think that should be a major issue for NANS rather than the issue of form price of fuel and all of that. I think the organized labor should handle that, where NANS should concentrate on what is happening at the university, because that directly concerns the students.
Well, but that's more details on page 20 of Nigerian Tribune. Now, also we have here, Nigeria worse off in 8 years of APC. And that's coming from the PDP presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, says, our restructuring will be inclusive about states' development. Atiku will bring back jobs, security, prosperity. And that's coming from Ayu, national chairman of the PDP. I don't want to go back and forth on blame game.
That's just the campaign.
Exactly. So let's just move past that. But the more details on page 3 of Nigerian Tribune. All right. Moving on, we also have here, train users worry as details of new fares leak. We are not aware, says NRC, and that's Nigeria Railway Corporation. So just a quick one, a quick look into that particular story or report. What we have is that many train users are currently apprehensive as an internal memo of NRC leaked on Wednesday, indicating that the corporation is set to jack up train fares across all its operational routes on the standard gauge rail in the country with effect from 1st of December 2022. Now, according to the internal memo signed and released by a certain Mr. Ola Adeyinwo, a deputy director at NRC, the Lagos, Ibadan, Warri, Itakwe, and Abuja Kaduna routes are all affected. So, some seats or coaches that used to cost 6,500 may now cost 9,000. We also have some that cost 5,000 may now cost 6,500. Some of 2,500 may now cost 3,600. And so on and so forth. All right. However, when contacted, the NRC spokesman Mahmood Yakub denied the increment, stating that he is currently in Abuja with the corporation managing director, engineer Fidet Okiria, at the Federal Ministry of Transportation. So he's saying, and I'm quoting, I don't know the origin of this planned tariff hike. As I'm talking to you, I am in Abuja with my MD and director of operations. I cannot confirm anything to you since nothing has been declared official. That is from the spokesperson of the Nigeria Railway Corporation. So we'll wait until there's an official statement. But then, who is Mr. Ola Adeyinwo that's circulating? Or where did he?
This is a leaked memo. I think we should just allow it to remain a leaked memo and nothing confirmed yet. And it seems that the spokesperson of the NRC has also reacted. We just assumed that was just a rumor, But again, I think whether we like it or not, the fact that operational costs of running these things would have gone up with the price of diesel and all of these other maintenance costs and all of that. Remember again that this train, the entire train was built with a loan from China, and we still have to pay these loans back. With the destruction of the Abuja-Kaduna rail line, it means that we are probably not even running on schedule as far as the repayment of the loan is concerned. So, again, for people who use the train, maybe they should just prepare their mind that this would happen, but we would assume that it's just a rumor, a leaked rumor, nothing confirmed yet. So we just leave it at that.
All right. More details on page 6 of Nigerian Tribune. And finally, from same paper, FEC approves mother tongue for teaching in primary schools. This is another big one that, over the night while I was reading about it, it's just very interesting. More interesting is the fact that it is with immediate effect. Another interesting part is that the language to be used is the predominant language of that community. So say, for example, a Chinedu or an Aisha is studying in a primary school in Southwest, Yoruba would be the language of teaching in that school. All right. So if Olashade is in
a particular day or so, the week,
or in a particular day, yes. But I mean, what do you think of that? Is it a good one that we should look forward to, or? I mean, I'm looking at it from an interesting unifying point of view, but
yeah, one would think that should unify Nigerians. At least you're able to have what you call cross-cultural knowledge of our languages and all of that. A good one. From that, again, for national identity, the fact that a lot of our kids can't even speak our mother tongue again. Even when they speak it sounds a bit funny. So if on that premise is the reason why this is going to be fine, it's not. I don't think there's any problem. It's just maybe just one day in a week or so, and you use your mother to teach the kids. They're able to, at least learn our local language. It's a good one. It's not a bad one. It's a good one.
All right. Well, so that's how it is. Primary schools with immediate effects. This coming from the Ministry of Education.
I doubt if the private schools are going to do it. Standard.
I'm with
private schools.
Okay.
I doubt if our private schools are going to eventually have by this. I think it's going to work more with public schools.
Isn't I did not government approve? Is it not a directive from the Federal Ministry of Education?
Our private schools are invested more in making the kids learn how to speak Queen's English, Montessori, phonetics, and come and speak Yoruba.
I know if a school, there are different teaching standards. There are different teaching standards. So if a school has adopted the Montessori teaching standard, that's the German method of teaching. They have there's a certain way to go around it. So if that has been put in place, I think that should be up for a conversation. Coming from the Education Ministry or the Education Commission, that what about schools that have say for example, there are some schools that they use the British curriculum, there are some schools that they use the American curriculum, and the Montessori, the German. So if you have schools like that, private schools like that, does it apply to them as well? I think it's also a conversation that we should throw open, and hopefully we'll try to see how this is going to be implemented, especially with private schools, as you have raised by the Education Commission.
Yeah, it will be good to see how the private schools would integrate this particular policy into their curriculum to ensure that, because again, like I said, it's important for proper cultural education and national education for national unity. The thing also expands the thinking of our kids, for them to know that you are an African, you're a Nigerian, you're Yoruba.
Well,
and then to be very proud of our culture.
The reason for this, based on the fact that 29 languages in Nigeria has gone extinct. So I totally get where the ministry is coming from. I'm just, I'm looking at implementation. So would they be going around schools and monitoring if this is being implemented or not, in schools. But that's all we have from Nigerian Tribune. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Now, we're moving on to the Punch newspaper, and the major headline there, fuel scarcity, no planned price hike, says federal government, queues spread. Now, riders to that, there will not be fuel price hike during Yuletide period, says government. NMDPRA, that's Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, assures motorists current stock can last for 34 days. Government can't continue subsidy amid diversion. So that's coming from a source in NNPC. And the story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. So let's quickly look through what exactly we have there. So the for the first time in weeks since the scarcity of petrol, the federal government has opened up and declared on Wednesday that there was no plan to increase the pump price of petrol, at least during the Yuletide season. However, in recent times, we haven't heard so much from the government, but at least they are saying something now. Meanwhile, some senior officials at the NNPC, earlier confirmed that subsidy was becoming too burdensome on the national oil company, as this was another reason for the scarcity of PMS. Let's not forget that NNPC is the sole importer of petrol into Nigeria, and they've been shouldering that tax for several years now after other marketers, stopped, importing the product due to inability to access foreign exchange as required. So we're back to that conversation of, if other people who can afford, access to Forex, if they can actually, why not throw it open? Exactly. Since it's now becoming a problem, NNPC can't afford, they are the only ones that bring in petrol. So if they don't have access to Forex, and now that they're even a private company, so if they are working based on how it's supposed to be, that means the government has little, or they get little or no help from the federal government. Then sorry.
Yeah, Sandra, the thing is this, I don't know where they all thinking of, we can't refine and then we have to import, and then NNPC has to be the sole importer. Why do you have to regulate to that level? What was the idea behind having NNPC being the sole importer of refined oil into the country? As much as we have, like I always think, I've agreed that we can't refine, it's a problem that we can't run refineries. I think we need to open up the importation to everybody and anybody that can access Forex from wherever and import fuel into this country. I'm telling you, even if you just want 1,000 liters that you can bring, you just bring it from whatever. Let us flood the market. So I can break that monopoly that is causing this disruption, this scarcity, intermittent scarcity every time. The fact is, the government needs to open up importation to everybody and anybody that can access Forex. Let's flood the market. It does not make sense to have NNPC be a sole importer. NNPC has failed in the area of managing refineries for it to work. Importation is a problem with them now. So let's just open up the whole thing. It's as simple as that. Then the issue of diversion, that they can't use us because of diversion. You see, the government will not give every kind of excuse to just kill subsidy. They will give all manner of excuse. Now, the diversion, we have custom officers, then we have security operatives to monitor and ensure that people don't smuggle some of the things out of the country. So the government fails in its responsibility, and the only thing they do is to just talk about subsidy as if it's one bad thing. Like I always say, subsidy is not a problem. It's just that in Nigeria we have not been able to do the right thing. All over the world, they subsidize almost all manner of things, both transportation, education. There's subsidy everywhere in the world, in advanced societies, to help the people. But here, every good thing that we think on that is mess it up with corruption, and then we try to blame ordinary people and make them suffer for it, for failure of government. They are diverting fuel. Is it the responsibility of ordinary Nigerians? Even the custom officers, the immigration, and everybody at our border, they are responsible for that. Why not even fire those people that are involved? They are supposed to man our border posts and ensure that, there's some form of accountability at that level. So the government is, they just want to throw every excuse out there to talk about subsidy. I think it's every genuine thing. Subsidy is not a bad thing. Nigeria that we mess it up with corruption.
All right. Well, there was some time ago, Fuhad, I don't know, there was that the federal government is aware of the increase in the pump price in some stations, and the federal government, or that the federal government actually even approved, or the NNPC approved the increase in the pump price in some stations, and then there was a refutal from NNPC saying, no, we did not. But, that story is still making the rounds. The fact that, the federal government had actually quietly allowed depot owners to raise the ex-depot price, above the approved, above the approved rate. Okay. So if we also have because the silence from the federal government and the silence from the NNPCL, the silence from the NNPCL and the federal government in this first scarcity, we don't really know the true situation of this fuel situation. Fine, the government's fuel price, but nobody is saying anything as regards why are we having scarcity. NNPC is saying that there's still fuel that can last the country for the next 34 days. Okay, but then if there is
can last, but enough to is it enough to ensure that we don't have queues at the filling stations? It can last. It's a statement that you need to probe standard. It can last for 34 days, but is it adequate to ensure that you only go into the filling station 1 minute you are out, you'll be able to buy? What is causing the scarcity? Then the PPPRA, which is supposed to be a regulatory agency, or that federal pricing regulatory agency, what exactly are they doing? What are they saying? Have they issued a statement about the current price increase that we are seeing in the what's it called? That's
the thing. So that's where the silence becomes questionable, because you have the fact that they didn't approve it, neither did they condemn it. So there needs to be some sort of statement, all right, as regards that you don't have private depots just doing things anyhow when there are regulatory bodies, that are supposed to be monitoring these things. But more details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, that's as regards fuel subsidy. Fuel scarcity. All right, moving on now. We also have on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Adeleke alleges Osun government vehicles missing, issues ultimatum. So yes, there's also the story that some vehicles that were gotten for, or that it was supposed to meet, they were not found, and some fleet of cars. So they're questioning some people who are part of the past administration, and he has given an ultimatum for the return of these vehicles. More details on page 20 of the Punch newspaper.
After the ultimatum is to track them, arrest them, and get the cash from them. People are saying that's silly. You are supposed to release the federal government and you take them away. Only to give them ultimatum, I agree with the governor. Give them ultimatum. After the ultimatum, the last week, they go after them, arrest them, and probably even prosecute them for stealing. It's an official guy that's supposed to be, so you don't take it away. After feeding fast in the state for years, you still have to take government and take it home. If it's easy, they will buy the fish and take it away too.
All right. Well, that's okay. More details of that on page 20. Now, moving on now, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, we also have here Aisha Buhari, Twitter critic, remanded in prison. I don't know if you've been following that particular story.
I've been following the story.
So this 500 level student of the Federal University of, the Federal University Dutse, Aminu Mohammed, has been accused of criticizing the wife of the president, and he has been remanded in a custodial center. So there was, a tweet that he posted with the Twitter handle Aminullah, and he screenshot the image of the First Lady and wrote in Hausa. Let me roughly translated to English means, Mama has embezzled monies meant for the poor to satisfaction, and posted that on his Twitter handle. Okay, and now he has been arrested, and now he has been remanded.
The issue has been trending for some time until there's a judgment on if that the guy should be remanded in prison pending the case. Now, and I think there's a lot of appeal the fact that once we expect a public official are supposed to be what you call a thick skin to criticism and some of these jobs that you get,
I mean, there are so many people that have heard worse. There are so many people that have, gotten worse. So this is...
Well, so one would expect that the First Lady should understand that, you as a public official, as wife of a public official, you're going to receive some of these things. We are going to receive some of these things, and going to receive some of these things, and it's I just think that I'm sure that there's people cited that is already taking up the guy's case. It's in court. If the people are accused that should be released, that if the First Lady thinks, the case should be taken as far as it can go, I think it's fine. There are people for the guy. I think civil rights activists.
Some people are doing what they can. They've even applied for bail, but it's not even being granted. And I find this actually interesting. I just find this really interesting. I mean, especially on Twitter, we have read the worst of the worst. We have seen the worst of the worst, and I mean, I'm quoting now what he said. Mama has embezzled monies meant for the poor to satisfaction. That's what he said. So how this landed this young man in prison?
Well, the thing again is that, I think people need to understand
do you remember
freedom of expression. Yes.
Do you remember Patience Jonathan?
I don't know, Patience.
She had it worse. I mean,
definitely.
She had it big time.
So if it's about the First Lady that got it, you have to be Patience Jonathan.
Yeah.
I think there was a time when she reacted to some of those things. I think she just took it as as one of those things. But again, the case is still in court. This is in court. I really don't want to talk too much about it. I don't feel that public officials should understand, or the wife of public officials should understand that these are normal things. If you go to the advanced world, they're doing the kind of things you see on their social media, the leaders and all of that.
People have been slapping the French president.
They are also held accountable. Some of those things also come with restitution.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that there have been worse, scenarios. There have been worse scenarios, but I mean, here we are, but it's just a simple. Let's leave that at that.
It's a simple thing. In the First Lady, it's a simple thing.
Yes, it's okay, and she probably felt very hurt.
It's right to do that. The guy too is being caught, and then we'll try to go. Okay,
well, that's on page 8, by the way, page 8 of the Punch newspaper. All right, and moving on now past that one, we also have here Dons back federal government policy on mother tongue teaching. That is on page 30 of the Punch newspaper. Now, above the masthead of the Punch, we also have here INEC gears up for elections in Northeast, deploys beavers. That's on page 2. So there are pictures, of the deployment actually. The machines being uploaded into trucks and whatnot, and being disbursed across states. All right, even in the Southeast too. So INEC is doing all they can. Let's be hopeful. That's on page 2 of the
pushing on.
Yes.
Pushing on with it.
Federal government blames governors for rising poverty. Edo Akwa Ibom differ. That's on page 14. Government pays ASU November salary, withhold arrears. That's on page 30. And that is all from the Punch newspaper. Yes, you are still on to Mainland 98.3 FM on trends in the papers. All right. And now we're moving on to the Guardian newspaper. And the major headline from the Guardian is NGF. That's the Governors Forum. Mom, as federal government shifts blame for high poverty to governors. All right. And the riders to that, Agba, that's Minister of State for Budget and Planning, Clement Agba. They rather build flyovers, skyscrapers, but leave fight against hunger. Sokoto has the highest number of poor people, followed by Bayelsa. Yahaya, governors committed to improving livelihood of rural dwellers. Rising inflation, falling wages increase poverty social unrest, says ILO. So still on that particular story as regards the federal government shifting blame to the governors as regards, the 133 million Nigerians that are living below poverty level. The NGF, that's the Governors Forum, they are not saying anything yet, but there was something though from the Punch where you have Edo State and Akwa Ibom. They seem to have released something or a statement as regards that.
Federal government would respond. The fact is, everybody is involved.
The Commissioner of Information, the Commissioner of Information and Strategy in Akwa Ibom State, Mr. Ini Emelbong, said it was wrong for the federal government to blame state governors for rising poverty. He said, what determines poverty and unemployment in a country is economic policies. Economic policies are set nationally. So, the federal government cannot abdicate its responsibility. It is only a sign of a sinking federal government to begin to blame state governors that have yet to see true federalism as being responsible for poverty. So, he's asking, how can economic policies in a state drive dollars which determine almost every of our national existence? There's a whole lot that he said, but then
it's easy for everybody to blame everybody and try to rate themselves. Sandra, when before discuss this issue, when I said, look, yes, we can agree that some of these state governments are being very responsible in the way they manage the resources of the state, in the choice of projects they do, in the way they also manage the affairs of the state, going to elephant projects, irresponsible spending and all of that. The governors cannot, most of the governors, I'll say, cannot say that they don't know these things. But again, the federal government too has a hand in all of it. How they manage economy. There's a way it comes from top and it tails into the state. A lot of the governors that are even talking about are the ones that have stifled the local government and not make them non-functional. If you are talking about true federalism, they themselves are really committed to true federalism in the way they stifle the local government. So like I said, from the federal to the state and the local government, every level of governance is a complete failure. So no one can exonerate themselves from the level of party in the country. I agree that the federal government has to answer to how to manage the economy. So they are all involved.
Exactly. Let's just leave it at that every one of them have one part, one role or the other to play. Okay, so I think rather than shifting blame, they should all just work together. Yes, the economic policies are not helping businesses and so many other operational costs and whatnot, but then also the state governments, they are the ones directly closer to the rural areas, the rural dwellers. There's more that they can do if only also the local governments can be empowered enough to do what they need to do. So it all is trickling down who is responsible for what. But more details of this on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here, I have fears about possible outcome of 2023 polls. And that's coming from former national chairman of INEC, Atahiru Jega. Okay, and that is on page 3. All right, so what are his fears? Okay, and he's saying that there's a whole lot. I have a lot of fears about the outcome of the election, but you see, people like me are what I call an incurable optimist. So I remain hopeful. Okay, I'm trying to get his fears.
Well, our fears, but some people have to be optimistic.
Everybody has one worry or the other.
Well, we have to be optimistic about a smooth transition eventually.
Exactly.
That between the fears and the uncertainties, we'll find a way to get it right and have a smooth transition. So we should all remain optimistic and hope that all will go well in 2023 election.
Yeah, that's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Also, we have here, court dismisses suit seeking disqualification of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, and that is on page I apologize. That is on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. So what we have from that particular story is that a federal high court sitting in Abuja yesterday dismissed a suit that was seeking to disqualify Labour Party presidential candidate. So the plaintiff, that's Allied People's Movement, APM, had approached the court for an injunction restraining the first defendant from acting on according recognition to, giving effect to, or in any way or manner dealing with the name of the third defendant, Peter Obi, as candidate of the second defendant in the second defendant, that's Labour Party, first defendant, that's INEC, all right, in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. They're saying that the court threw this out due to failure to providing sufficient evidence to grant the request. This is interesting.
I keep wondering why one political party will be involved in what is happening in a political party. The APM is talking about what is happening in the Labour Party, and then going to court to say they should nullify the. I keep sometimes I wonder where the whole thinking is coming from. You just you go and case against another party, your own party. And that's why someone needs to be thrown out for lack of evidence and clarity.
It's okay. Well, that's all we have from the Guardian newspaper. That has been dismissed. So moving on now, that's on page 4 of the Guardian. We have a few minutes to go. Let's go through what's trending on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And now we have the major headline: Adeleke Oyetola quarrel afresh over handover procedure. Now, the riders to that: Adeleke declined to meet with my handing over team, says Oyetola. They're jokers. That's coming from Adeleke's transition committee's chairman. Return government properties within 48 hours. Government orders Oyetola's aides. Osun Assembly orders status quo on local government administration. You appear uncoordinated, APC tells Osun government. Be fair to all, says Osun traditionalists. So, just a few days after the inauguration of the new governor of Osun State, so many intriguing scenarios have been playing out, especially as in handing over and in also in policy changes and whatnot. And the Osun State House of Assembly seem to be taking a strong stand. But I'm just going to look past all of that, and we hope that this won't be much of a distraction to the governor to ensure that he goes there and does what he has promised to do. All right, this is just the first few days. We'll see how things will work out for the Osun State governor.
Well, one would think that between the outgoing governor and the new governor, they will take the interest of the state. They'll make it paramount. They'll make it the most important thing. I remember when they keep the state when, I think after his first term, that Governor Faye was defeated by the PDP by what's his name now. When he lost the elections to Fayose. Remember the way he stepped over, the traction was smooth. And after 4 years, he came back and won again. Sometimes these things, one would expect that if it's the interest of Osun State, the government should have created a full transition.
Don't you think this is interesting based on the fact that, number one, the person who is handing over or the handing over is from an incumbent to a fresh person, and also from an opposition party to another opposition party. So
that has happened before. It has happened. That's what happened at Ekiti. Every day of the, I think, ACA, the lost elections to the PDP of Fayose, handed over without anything. The transition was smooth, everything was fine. And 4 years after, he contested and won again.
And he came back, exactly. All right.
And he came back. So what I'm saying is that, why should there be any problem?
It's all right. More details on page 26 of Vanguard newspaper. Also on the front page of Vanguard, we have 2023. I'm seeking re-election based on performance, says Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu. And that is on page 10 of Vanguard newspaper. We also have here, despite attacks, we will recover. That's coming from Mahmood Yakubu, INEC chairman. That's on page 9. Okay. And we also have major stories here are stories that we've already treated from the other papers. So we'll take a short break and we will be back by 8:40 a.m. where we move on to Milan Focus. Today is Thursday, so it's open mic. I trust that we all followed the major trending stories across all the papers this morning, so that by the time we open up the phone line, we can have conversations, really, interesting, objective, constructive, issue-based conversations this morning on Mainland Focus. So stay with us, don't go anywhere. You're on to Mainland 98.3 FM.